The unwanted gift. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the cavernous docking bay of Starbase Epsilon, staring at what the Galactic Confederation claimed was humanity's newest warship. The ESS Phoenix hung suspended in the magnetic cradles, its hull a patchwork of mismatched plates and outdated armor. She couldn't help but laugh. It wasn't even one of the Confederation's current designs, but a decommissioned Vardari patrol vessel that predated humanity's first steps into space. They're not even trying to hide their contempt anymore, Executive Officer James Rodriguez said, standing beside her. He tapped his datapad, scrolling through the ship's specifications. Half the systems are incompatible with standard human interfaces. The weapon systems are 3 generations behind current tech. And the quantum drive. He shook his head. It's rated barely above minimum safety standards. Sarah's eyes narrowed as she studied the vessel. Where others saw an insult, she saw possibility. What's the core architecture? Vardari Mark VII neural matrix. Obsolete by their standards, but Rodriguez's eyes widened as he caught her meaning. The baseline processing power is still leagues ahead of anything we've developed independently. And the whole composition, mostly crystalline alloys. They consider it outdated because it's more maintenance-intensive than modern materials, but it can be retuned to different resonance frequencies. Sarah finished. Get me Engineering's initial assessment. The ship's chief engineer, Dr. Maya Patel, emerged from a maintenance shaft, her dark skin streaked with diagnostic gel. Her augmented reality implants glowed faintly as she processed the ship's systems in real time. It's a mess, Captain, but a fascinating mess. The Vardari never fully understood the potential of their own technology. They built everything to rigid specifications, never experimenting with the underlying principles. And we humans have a talent for coloring outside the lines, Sarah said. What's your verdict? Maya's face broke into a fierce grin. Give me 3 months and a free hand with modifications. I'll turn their cast-off into something they never imagined possible. Sarah turned to her final senior officer. Lieutenant Commander Ash Jong, head of tactical, had been silently studying weapon placements. Their biggest mistake, Ash said without looking away from the ship, was giving us something they thought was worthless. It means they won't be watching us closely. My thoughts exactly. Sarah faced her command team. The Confederation thinks they're putting us in our place by giving us their garbage. They expect us to fail, to prove that humanity isn't ready for the galactic stage. Instead, we're going to show them why that's a dangerous assumption. The next weeks were a blur of activity. Maya's engineering team worked around the clock, stripping systems down to their base components and rebuilding them with human ingenuity. They discovered that the crystalline hull, when properly tuned, could channel energy in ways the Vardari had never attempted. The neural matrix, freed from its original constraints, proved capable of processing power that bordered on true artificial intelligence. But it wasn't without cost. During the first test of their modified weapons systems, a power surge nearly breached the containment fields. 2 engineers ended up in medical with severe burns. The next day, Sarah found Maya in her office, surrounded by holographic failure analyses. I can't guarantee it won't happen again, Maya said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. We're pushing these systems far beyond their intended parameters. One mistake, one miscalculation. How many test flights did the Wright brothers crash before they succeeded? Sarah asked. Maya looked up, confused. What? Human history is full of disasters that paved the way to triumph. We learn, we adapt, and we overcome. That's what they don't understand about us. Sarah gestured to the failure analyses. Every setback teaches us something new. We're not just fixing the ship, we're rewriting the rules of what's possible. The work continued. They discovered that the quantum drive, despite its age, had unique properties that could be exploited. By reconfiguring its containment fields in ways that would have horrified its original designers, they could achieve brief bursts of speed that matched modern military vessels. The weapons, when linked to the enhanced neural matrix, could be fired in precise patterns that overwhelmed more advanced targeting systems. Word of their modifications reached Confederation Command. A delegation of Vardari engineers arrived for an inspection, their scaled faces showing clear disdain for what they considered primitive tampering. Sarah watched from the observation deck as they toured the ship, their expressions shifting from contempt to confusion to barely hidden concern. The ship no longer meets standard safety protocols, their leader declared. These modifications must be reversed. With all due respect, Sarah replied, your protocols were written for your understanding of the technology. We've developed our own safety standards based on how we're actually using it. This is unprecedented. Yes, Sarah cut him off. It is. And that's exactly why it's going to work. The Vardari left with thinly veiled threats of consequences, but Sarah knew they had achieved something important. They had made the Confederation nervous. For the first time, they were seeing humans not as primitive newcomers to be tolerated, but as potentially dangerous innovators who didn't play by established rules. 2 months after receiving the ship, the Phoenix was ready for its first real test. The modified hull gleamed with an otherworldly iridescence, its crystalline structure now tuned to frequencies that the Vardari had never imagined possible. The neural matrix had evolved into something that bordered on sentience, adapting and learning in ways that simultaneously thrilled and unnerved the crew. As Sarah sat in the command chair for their first full-power trial, she felt a fierce pride in what they had accomplished. Status report, she ordered. All systems showing green, Rodriguez reported. Though I should note that green is now covering parameters that would have been deep in the red zone on the original specs. Weapons primed and linked to the enhanced targeting systems. Ash added, response time is 300% faster than standard Confederation protocols. Maya's voice came over the comm from engineering. Core containment is stable. Ready to show them what this worthless ship can really do. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Take us out, Helm. Let's give the Confederation something to think about. The Phoenix's engines flared to life, their glow unlike anything seen in Confederation space. As they cleared the starbase's security perimeter, Sarah thought about the message they were sending. The Confederation had given them a gift after all, just not the one they intended. They had given humanity the chance to prove that innovation, adaptability, and the willingness to defy conventional wisdom could transform even their cast-offs into something revolutionary. The real test was still to come, but Sarah knew they had already achieved something significant. They had taken the Confederation's attempt to humble humanity and turned it into an opportunity to demonstrate why underestimating humans was always a dangerous mistake. Breaking the rules of engineering. The Phoenix's engine core pulsed with an eerie violet glow that no Vardari ship had ever produced. Maya Patel stood before the massive containment chamber, her augmented reality displays swimming with data that shouldn't have been possible. The crystalline matrices they'd modified were channeling energy in ways that defied conventional physics, at least conventional by Confederation standards. The power readings are off the charts, her assistant, Kai, whispered. If the Vardari knew what we'd done to their precious containment protocols, they'd probably have a collective aneurysm, Maya finished, adjusting another set of parameters. The core's glow intensified, and the ship's neural matrix sent a ripple of feedback through their monitoring systems. But that's their limitation, not ours. They built these systems to be perfect, predictable, safe. They never asked what they could really do. The ship shuddered, and warning indicators flashed across Maya's vision. She quickly adjusted the power flow, watching as the energy patterns stabilized into new configurations. The neural matrix, which they'd begun calling Prometheus, was learning, adapting to each change they made. It was developing its own understanding of how to manage the modified systems. Captain Chen's voice came over the comm. Engineering, we're detecting some unusual readings up here. Everything all right? Better than all right, Captain. We've just discovered something interesting about the quantum field interactions. Permission to try something incredibly stupid. There was a pause. Define incredibly stupid. Remember how the Vardari designed these systems to maintain stable quantum fields. Well, what if stability isn't always the answer? What if we could deliberately introduce controlled quantum fluctuations? The risks are significant, Maya admitted. But so are the potential benefits. The Vardari built everything around preventing quantum uncertainty. But we humans? We thrive on uncertainty. Another pause. You have 1 hour, but at the first sign of containment failure, shut it down. Maya grinned. Understood, Captain. All right, Kai. Let's break some laws of physics. They spent the next hour pushing the systems to their limits, introducing carefully calculated instabilities into the quantum fields. Each time they approached what the Vardari would have considered catastrophic failure, Prometheus would find a new way to channel the energy, creating patterns that somehow made the ship's systems more efficient, not less. On the bridge, Sarah watched the readings with a mixture of anxiety and amazement. Rodriguez stood at her shoulder, shaking his head in disbelief. "They're going to think we're insane," he said. "The Confederation has spent centuries developing perfect technology, and here we are deliberately making it imperfect." "Imperfect but adaptable," Sarah corrected. "That's always been humanity's strength. We don't achieve perfection. We achieve possibility." Ash's voice cut through their conversation. "Captain, we're picking up something on long-range sensors. A Confederation patrol vessel is altering course to investigate our energy signature." Sarah straightened in her chair. "Maya, time to wrap it up. We've got company coming." "Just one more adjustment, Captain. I think we found something." The ship lurched violently, and for a moment, every system went dark. When power returned, the readings were unlike anything they'd seen before. "Maya," Sarah's voice was tense. "You're not going to believe this, Captain. The quantum fluctuations we introduced, they've created a kind of resonance pattern. The ship's systems are operating at 200% efficiency, minimum. And Prometheus, I think it's learned how to maintain these patterns on its own." The approaching Confederation vessel hailed them. On screen, a Vardari commander appeared, his scaled features set in an expression of concern. "ES Phoenix, our sensors indicate dangerous instabilities in your power signature. Power down immediately and prepare for emergency assistance." Sarah smiled diplomatically. "Thank you for your concern, Commander, but we have the situation well in hand. We're simply conducting some routine tests of our modified systems." "Modified?" "Those systems were certified according to Confederation standards. Any unauthorized modifications are our responsibility." Sarah cut in. "As per Article 7 of the Technology Integration Treaty, member species are permitted to adapt provided technology to their own requirements, provided they accept full responsibility for the consequences." The Vardari's eyes narrowed. "Those modifications appear to violate basic safety protocols. By your standards, perhaps, but we're not using your standards anymore." Sarah nodded to her helm officer. "Allow us to demonstrate." Before the Vardari could respond, the Phoenix surged forward, its modified engines propelling it at speeds that should have been impossible for a ship of its class. They executed a series of maneuvers that the original designers would have sworn would tear the ship apart. Instead, the crystalline hull sang with energy, Prometheus adapting to each stress pattern and turning it into an advantage. When they finally came to a stop, the Vardari vessel had fallen far behind, its sensors struggling to track their movements. The commander's face showed a new emotion. "Fear. This is impossible," he stammered. "Those systems cannot perform like that. It violates every principle of your engineering," Sarah finished. "But we're not bound by your principles anymore. We're writing our own." After the Vardari vessel departed, Sarah called a meeting of her senior staff. Maya's holographic projections filled the conference room with displays of their latest achievements. "We've barely scratched the surface," Maya explained, her eyes bright with excitement. "Every time we push these systems further, Prometheus finds new ways to make them work together. It's not just learning, it's innovating. And that's what scares them. Ash observed. Not just that we're making their technology work differently, but that we're letting it evolve. Sarah studied the displays thoughtfully. They gave us this ship thinking it would prove our inadequacy. Instead, it's proving something else, that sometimes the most dangerous gift you can give someone is the thing you think is worthless. Rodriguez frowned at a particular set of readings. These power signatures, they're going to notice. The Confederation won't be able to ignore this. Good, Sarah said firmly. Let them notice. Let them worry. Because soon enough, they're going to learn something that humanity has known for a long time. True innovation doesn't come from making things perfect. It comes from embracing the chaos, learning from failure, and daring to imagine something new. The Phoenix hummed around them, its systems pulsing with energy patterns that defied conventional understanding. They had broken the rules of engineering, and in doing so, they had begun to write new ones. The real question now was not whether the Confederation would respond, but how they would handle the realization that their cast-off had become something unprecedented and potentially unstoppable. First blood. The distress call came at the worst possible moment. The Phoenix was in the middle of a delicate systems calibration when the emergency signal cut through their communications array. A civilian transport under attack by raiders in the Outer Rim. How far? Sarah asked, already knowing they were the only ship within range. The Confederation's patrol routes deliberately kept their vessels away from human-operated ships, a policy of calculated neglect that was about to work in someone else's favor. 20 minutes at standard drive, Rodriguez reported. 10 if we push the modifications to their limits. Sarah's hands tightened on her chair's armrests. They hadn't tested their combat systems under real conditions yet. The simulations looked promising, but simulations couldn't account for the quantum fluctuations they'd introduced into nearly every system. Maya, can we sustain combat operations with the current configurations? Theoretically, yes. Practically, we're about to find out. Maya's voice carried both excitement and tension. Prometheus has been running combat scenarios. It thinks it's ready. It thinks. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Figure of speech. Mostly. Maya paused. Permission to divert power from safety buffers to weapon systems. Sarah took a deep breath. This was exactly the kind of situation the Confederation expected them to avoid, or fail at spectacularly. Do it. Ash. Battle stations. All hands, prepare for combat engagement. The Phoenix's modified engines roared to life, pushing the ship to speeds that made the hull resonate with an almost musical tone. The crystalline structure they'd spent months modifying now channeled energy in ways that would have made Vardari engineers faint. They dropped out of quantum space into chaos. 3 raider vessels, their hulls painted with the blood-red markings of the Scarlet Syndicate, surrounded a civilian transport. The transport's shields were failing, its hull already scared by weapons fire. Multiple targeting locks, Ash reported calmly. They're not used to seeing Vardari ships out here. They're confused. Let's add to that confusion, Sarah ordered. Execute combat pattern Delta 7. The Phoenix moved in ways no Vardari ship ever had, its modified systems allowing for maneuvers that should have torn it apart. Prometheus, their enhanced neural matrix, coordinated the ship's responses faster than any human crew could have managed alone. The first raider barely had time to react before the Phoenix's weapons opened up. But instead of the standard energy beams they'd expect from a Vardari vessel, they faced something new. The crystalline hull channeled their weapons' energy in rotating frequencies, creating interference patterns that overwhelmed the raiders' shields. Direct hit, Ash announced. Their primary system's air. The ship rocked violently, taking fire from the other 2. Shields holding at 87%. The raiders were adapting, coordinating their attacks to overwhelm the Phoenix defenses. They'd realized this wasn't a standard Vardari patrol ship, but that only made them more determined to destroy it. Maya, we need more power to the weapons arrays. Working on it. Maya's fingers flew across her controls. Prometheus is suggesting something. Interesting. Captain, permission to try something extremely unorthodox. Define unorthodox. Remember how we modified the hull to channel energy? What if we turned the whole ship into one big weapon? Sarah's eyes widened as she understood. Do it. The Phoenix's hull began to glow, the crystalline structure vibrating at frequencies that made the Raider's sensors go haywire. Energy built up in patterns that defied conventional physics, turning the ship itself into a resonance chamber. Brace for impact, Sarah ordered. The energy release was spectacular. A wave of quantum distortions rippled out from the Phoenix, disrupting shields and overloading systems on both remaining Raider vessels. One spun out of control, its engines dark. The other managed to maintain power, but was clearly crippled. Status report, Sarah called out as the ship's systems stabilized. Shields at 62%. Ash reported. Minor hull damage on decks 3 and 4. Weapons systems still operational, but the energy discharge stressed the containment fields. Engineering crews reporting multiple overloads, Rodriguez added. Maya's team is containing them, but we can't pull that trick again anytime soon. The civilian transport hailed them, their captain's voice thick with relief and confusion. Phoenix, we thank you. But what kind of ship are you? Those maneuvers, that energy discharge. Let's just say we're something new, Sarah replied. Can you make it to the nearest Confederation outpost? Yes, our engines are damaged but functional. But the Raiders. Sarah studied the disabled ships on her tactical display. We'll handle them. Phoenix out. She turned to Rodriguez. Signal Confederation security. Let them know they have some pirates to pick up. They'll have questions about how we managed this, Rodriguez warned. Let them question. Right now, I'm more concerned about our ship. Sarah opened a channel to engineering. Maya, what's the damage? Nothing we can't fix, Maya replied, though she sounded exhausted. But that energy discharge revealed something interesting. The crystalline matrix isn't just channeling energy, it's evolving. Each stress we put it under changes its structure slightly, making it more efficient. Prometheus is already incorporating the new patterns into our combat protocols. Sarah leaned back in her chair, absorbing the implications. They'd just proved that their modifications worked in actual combat, but they'd also revealed their capabilities to both the Raiders and soon the Confederation. The game had changed. Get me a full damage report, she ordered. And Maya, start thinking about how we can improve on what we just did. Something tells me we're going to need even more surprises ready. As the Phoenix held position over the disabled Raiders, Sarah watched the civilian transport limp away toward safety. They'd won their first real fight, but she knew it was just the beginning. The Confederation would hear about this, and they wouldn't be able to ignore it. The ship they'd written off as worthless had just proven itself in combat, using technology in ways they'd never imagined possible. Message coming in from Confederation Command, Rodriguez reported. They're requesting a full report on the incident, and he smiled slightly. A detailed inspection of our modifications. I bet they are, Sarah muttered. Send them the basic incident report. As for our modifications, she smiled. Tell them that information is classified under Article 7 of the Technology Integration Treaty. Let them worry about what else we might have figured out. The Phoenix's hull still hummed with residual energy, its crystalline structure forever changed by the battle they'd just won. They'd crossed a line today, proving that humanity could not only adapt Confederation technology, but transform it into something entirely new. The real question now was how the Confederation would respond, and what other surprises the Phoenix had yet to reveal. The hidden advantage. 3 days after the battle with the Raiders, Maya discovered something that changed everything. She was deep in the ship's maintenance shafts, tracing power fluctuations that had been occurring since their combat test, when Prometheus flagged an anomaly in the ship's original schematics. Captain, you need to see this. Maya's voice carried an unusual edge that made Sarah abandon her reports and head straight to engineering. She found her chief engineer surrounded by holographic displays, showing layers of the ship's architecture she'd never seen before. What am I looking at? The truth. Maya manipulated the displays, highlighting structures buried deep within the ship's framework. These aren't design flaws or outdated systems. They're dormant features. The Vardari didn't give us an obsolete patrol ship. They gave us a prototype, one they could never get to work properly. Sarah studied the complex patterns of crystalline structures and neural pathways that threaded through the ship's core. Explain. The Vardari are methodical, logical. They approach engineering like solving a mathematical equation. Everything has to balance perfectly. But this ship, Maya's eyes gleamed. This ship was an experiment in controlled chaos. They tried to create a vessel that could adapt and evolve, but they couldn't accept the unpredictability it required. So they buried the advanced systems under layers of restrictive protocols and called it a failure. Rodriguez, who had joined them, shook his head in amazement. And when we started breaking their rules, we accidentally activated what was always meant to be there. Maya finished. Every modification we made, every protocol we bypassed, brought us closer to the ship's true design. Prometheus isn't just an enhanced neural matrix. It's what the original AI was supposed to become before they locked it down. Sarah touched one of the holographic displays, tracing the pattern of a structure they'd thought was just part of the hull's support system. Can you wake it all up? That's the thing. Maya's expression turned serious. We already have. That battle with the Raiders. The energy discharge wasn't just a weapon. It was the final key. The crystalline matrix isn't just channeling power anymore. It's reconfiguring itself at the quantum level. The ship is becoming. Becoming what? Before Maya could answer, Ash's voice came over the comm. Captain, we're picking up multiple ships dropping out of quantum space. Confederation signatures, a lot of them. Sarah rushed to the bridge. The others closed behind. The tactical display showed a fleet of Confederation warships taking up attack positions around the Phoenix. Their weapons were powered but not yet targeting. They know, Rodriguez said quietly. They must have figured out what we've awakened. The lead Confederation vessel hailed them. The face that appeared on their screen wasn't Vardari. It was a Primarch, one of the eldest races of the Confederation. His crystalline features caught the light in ways unnervingly similar to their ship's hull. ESS Phoenix. The Primarch's voice resonated with harmonics that made the ship's structure vibrate sympathetically. You have activated systems beyond your understanding. Power down immediately and prepare for boarding. Sarah felt Prometheus' response through the ship's neural interface, a surge of defiance and potential. The dormant systems Maya had discovered were now fully awake, and they recognized something in the Primarch's voice. You knew, Sarah said, realization dawning. This ship wasn't a Vardari experiment at all, was it? It was yours. You gave it to them knowing they'd fail, then let them give it to us. A test, the Primarch confirmed. One which you have unexpectedly passed, though in ways we never anticipated. The ship was designed to bond with a species capable of embracing uncertainty, of finding strength in chaos. The Vardari could not. We thought humanity too primitive to even try. Maya's hands flew over her console as new information flooded their systems. Captain, the ship's showing me its original specifications. The Primarchs, they based its design on organic evolution. It wasn't meant to be perfect. It was meant to grow. And now it has grown beyond our predictions, the Primarch said. You will surrender it to us for study. Sarah felt the ship's response through their neural link, not just Prometheus now, but the entire vessel's awakened consciousness. The crystalline hull thrummed with potential, its structure now fully aligned with its original purpose. They weren't just flying the ship anymore. They were part of its evolution. I don't think that's going to happen, Sarah replied. This ship chose us. Whatever you intended it to be, it's become something new through its bond with humanity. Something neither of our species could have created alone. You cannot hope to stand against a Confederation battle fleet. Sarah smiled. Maybe not, but then again, You've already admitted you didn't anticipate what we could do. Care to test your predictions again? The Phoenix's hull began to glow with patterns that mirrored the Primarch's crystalline features. Energy coursed through pathways that had lain dormant for centuries, waiting for a species that could embrace their true potential. The ship hadn't just been modified, it had been reborn. Final warning, the Primarch declared. Surrender the vessel or face the consequences. Sarah looked at her crew, humans who had taken a cast-off piece of technology and helped it become something unprecedented. Maya's eyes were alive with the thrill of discovery. Rodriguez stood ready at his station, trusting in the impossible changes they'd achieved. Ash's hands hovered over weapons that now functioned in ways their designers had never imagined. You know, Sarah said to the Primarch, humanity has a long history of facing consequences that were supposed to be beyond us. It's kind of our specialty. She settled into her command chair as the ship's systems aligned perfectly with their intentions. And we're about to show you exactly why that is. The Phoenix's crystalline hull blazed with internal light, its structure now fully awakened to its original purpose and enhanced by human innovation. They had discovered the hidden truth of their ship, but more importantly, they had proven why they were worthy of it. The real test wasn't about mastering advanced technology. It was about having the courage to embrace evolution itself. As the Confederation fleet moved to attack positions, Sarah felt the ship's readiness through their neural link. They had woken something that had slept for centuries, waiting for a species that could understand that perfection wasn't about flawless execution, but about endless adaptation. Now it was time to show the galaxy exactly what that meant. Proving ground. The Confederation fleet's first volley lit up space like artificial stars, a wave of energy weapons designed to overwhelm any possible defense. But the Phoenix was no longer bound by possible. Its crystalline hull fractured the incoming fire into prismatic patterns, each beam of energy absorbed and redirected through quantum pathways that shouldn't have existed. Multiple impacts, Ash reported calmly. Shield efficiency at 115%. The hull is actually getting stronger. Sarah felt it through their neural link. The ship wasn't just defending itself. It was learning, evolving with each attack. The Primarch's flagship launched another barrage, more powerful than the first. The Phoenix's response left everyone on the bridge speechless. The crystalline hull split the incoming fire into its quantum components, each energy signature analyzed and adapted to in microseconds. Where the Confederation expected their weapons to burn through shields, they instead watched their attacks become part of the Phoenix's evolution. They're trying to broadcast some kind of shutdown signal, Maya called from engineering. Trying to activate old command protocols. She laughed. Prometheus is sending back error messages in 17 different languages. I think it just invented 3 of them. The Phoenix moved like a living thing, its maneuvers defying standard space combat doctrine. The Confederation fleet's formation, perfect by their standards, couldn't adapt to the organic, almost artistic way the ship flowed through their attack patterns. Their targeting systems can't predict our movements, Rodriguez observed. They're still fighting by the rules. Then let's show them why rules aren't always the answer, Sarah said. Maya, remember that quantum resonance trick we used against the Raiders? Already on it, Captain. But this time, Maya's voice carried a note of fierce joy. This time, the ship knows exactly what it wants to do. Prometheus is showing me configurations I never would have thought of. The Phoenix's hull began to pulse with waves of crystalline energy, each ripple carrying quantum information that propagated through space in ways that violated everything the Confederation knew about physics. Their sensors, designed to detect and counter known weapons, couldn't even properly register what they were seeing. Warning shots, Sarah ordered. Let's show them what they're really dealing with. The ship responded with something beyond weapons fire. The crystalline matrix channeled energy in spiral patterns, creating quantum vortices that bypassed shields entirely. 3 Confederation ships found their power systems temporarily inverted, their energy bleeding off into subspace. They weren't damaged. They were simply rendered irrelevant. The Primarch's voice cut through their communications again, but this time the harmonics carried something new. Uncertainty. What have you done? This level of integration between organic and crystalline systems, it's not possible. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy, Sarah replied. We don't accept impossible. We just haven't figured it out yet. She watched as more Confederation ships tried to adapt to their attacks. Each attempt predicted and countered before it could manifest. Your test succeeded beyond your wildest expectations. The question is, are you ready for what that means? A new wave of attackers pressed forward, their weapons reconfigured based on the data from the first exchange. The Phoenix's response showed them the futility of their approach. Its hull now rippled with quantum possibilities, each potential future calculated and adapted to simultaneously. Where they brought order, it answered with beautiful chaos. They're pulling back, Ash announced, reforming their line at extreme range. Reading massive power buildup, they're preparing for a concentrated strike. Sarah felt Prometheus's suggestion through their neural link. The ship wasn't just offering tactical options, it was showing them a new way of thinking about space combat entirely. Maya, are you seeing this? Oh yes. Maya's voice was filled with wonder. Captain, the ship wants to try something. It's beautiful. Terrifying, but beautiful. Show me. The tactical display filled with crystalline patterns that made Sarah's eyes water. The ship wasn't proposing to fight the Confederation fleet. It was suggesting they show them why their entire approach to warfare was fundamentally limited. Do it, Sarah ordered. The Phoenix's hull transformed. There was no other word for it. The crystalline structure that had been evolving since their first modifications now achieved its final form. Each facet became a quantum lens, each plane a gateway to possibilities the Confederation had never dared to explore. When the Confederation fleet launched their massive, coordinated strike, the Phoenix didn't dodge. It didn't defend. It transcended. The ship phase shifted through multiple quantum states simultaneously, existing in several realities at once. The combined firepower of the fleet passed through space that was and wasn't there, their perfect formation rendered meaningless by an enemy that refused to play by the rules of normal spacetime. By all the stars, the Primarch's voice shook. You've achieved true quantum consciousness. The ship, it's actually evolved. Sarah finished. Beyond what you imagined when you designed it. Beyond what the Vardari could achieve when you gave it to them. Beyond even what we thought possible when we started modifying it. She stood from her command chair, her neural link with the ship showing her possibilities that made her human mind spin. This is what happens when you underestimate a species that thrives on challenges. We don't just adapt technology. We help it grow beyond its original purpose. The Phoenix hung in space, its hull now a lattice of quantum possibilities made manifest. The Confederation fleet, their perfect formation shattered, their weapons proved inadequate, could only watch as their cast-off prototype became something unprecedented in galactic history. You have a choice, Sarah told the Primarch. You can keep fighting, trying to destroy what you helped create, or you can accept that the galaxy is ready for something new, a partnership between organic innovation and technological evolution that doesn't rely on perfect control. The silence stretched for long moments as the Primarch considered. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of revelation. Perhaps we have been the limited ones, seeing only the patterns we expected, never the possibilities we feared to imagine. The Confederation fleet powered down their weapons. The Phoenix's hull settled into a new configuration, its crystalline surface now a permanent reminder that evolution couldn't be controlled. It could only be embraced. The ship wasn't meant to be a weapon, Sarah said softly, understanding at last. It was meant to be a teacher. And the lesson wasn't for humanity alone. As the crisis ended and the fleet began to withdraw, Sarah looked at her crew. Humans who had taken a cast-off piece of technology and helped it become something that would change galactic civilization forever. They had proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in perfecting existing systems, but in daring to imagine and create something entirely new. The Phoenix hung in space, its crystalline hull now a bridge between what was and what could be. They had been given a gift disguised as trash, a test hidden in an insult. And in rising to that challenge, humanity had shown the galaxy why underestimating them was the greatest mistake anyone could make. Because humans didn't just use technology, they helped it dream of what it could become.